He was born Clive Pinnock in rural Jamaica to a single mother, but he became J. Douglas when he began performing professionally at age 17, and he's never really stopped. His career has spanned more than 60 years, and his story forms the basis of a TVO original documentary. It's called Play It Loud, How Toronto Got Soul, and we're delighted to welcome J. Douglas, along with director Graeme Mathieson, to discuss the little-known early influence of Caribbean music on Toronto's sound. Gentlemen, it is great to... Graeme, don't take this the wrong way. It's so fabulous to have you here. I'm delighted to welcome you, but it's fabulous to have him here.
Thank you.
So born in Jamaica, how did you get started singing music? How did it all begin?
Well, in Jamaica, as a young man, raised in the church, a Methodist, and we have what is known as Sunday school in the morning for the kids. Start singing there. In primary school, what we call public school or kindergarten, singing was part of the curriculum.
When did you know that you were not just singing for Sunday school, but that this could be a real thing for you?
Talent show. Pick a star. We had a gentleman by the name of Veer Johns. What you have today, Americans Got Talent, or Simon. We had Veer Johns.
What's his last name again?
Cowell.
Simon Cowell. Yeah,
yes,
from American Idol.
We had Veer Johns.
Okay.
And he was no slouch. He says, you get up there and be smart. You know, if the band make a mistake or something, you're not allowed to turn around. Improvise your way out of it from that early stage.
And that's when you knew you had game.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should we take a look at a clip from your documentary?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sheldon, rock it out. Let's go.
At 7:30, woo, theater, jam-packed. Trumpet, piano, that's their back end. We sang. You're my love, you're my angel, you're the girl of my dreams. But I'd like to thank you for waiting patiently. Your daddy's home. As a kid, it's a talent show, but they were very strict with us. We weren't allowed to turn around and look at the band if the band made a mistake. No, you have to learn to improvise from that early stage. It was our first taste of show business, and we came first.
That's such a great clip. You still sound so good. And I don't have to tell you that a lot of singers, when they get to your age, and we don't have to say what it is, but let's just say, it starts with a 7, okay?
Easy now.
How do you still sound so good?
Faith and locked in with the universe. Be grateful to be alive today, and to be grateful to be blessed in this beautiful paradise it's called Canada. Thankful, and just be true. Be true. Locked in with nature, and it's great, great. I'm not caught up in the number. No, I'm caught up in, I'd rather you ask me, are you healthy? Are you hungry? I'll feed you. Give me the food and let me grow. And just enjoy the journey.
It shows you're enjoying the journey.
Yes.
How did this story come to you in the first place and inspire you so much that you felt you needed to make a doc about it?
Yeah, so it goes back about 4 years ago. So we've been on this about 4 years, even though it's a story that goes maybe 60 years back. But Andrew Munger, who's a producer, documentary producer, he had the idea for this and had contacted Jay and then presented it to me as a director on it. And I, right away, like I've got connections to the music and I'm really passionate about the music. So immediately we saw the same vision of this story and helping elevate these stories of Jay and his contemporaries and sort of the cultural influence the music has had on Canadian culture. I also did a 15-year radio show in one of Toronto's probably most predominant Caribbean programmed radio stations back in the day, which was CHRY 105.5 out of York University. And I played the original soul and funk and reggae and ska records. So I was always passionate about learning more about this music. I'm also Jamaican. My mom's from Jamaica. She came up a few years after Jay came up. She immigrated to Canada. So I've always grown up into music and just wanted to discover more of it and just realizing how much there was here in Canada, and that kind of went undiscovered.
Well, that's the point. I mean, you really were a pioneer in getting this music out there, and we're talking 50, 60 years ago right now. What was Toronto like back then?
That's a good question. What you was like, for example, when I came at that time, first thing I noticed was when I came through the custom, immigration.
You moved here as a teenager.
Yes, 1964, and my mom came 1954 as a domestic worker. And the questions that were asked of me at immigration, I knew I was in a new environment. And then looking outside, it was in the fall, no leaves on the trees. I said, why, the trees are dying. What happened here? But then again, it was nature, you know, learning how to appreciate the different seasons.
Did you like Toronto when you first got here?
No,
What didn't you like about it?
I did not. I missed the food that I left in the Caribbean. And the cold, because I'm from a tropical climate. But as soon as I got here, my mom told me, she says, listen, you're gonna need an education. You need to go to school right away. So then my friend Henry Naylor introduced me to Central Technical High School.
You went to Central Tech.
Central Tech, only to find out it's the largest technical school in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So large that in my first week I got lost. So they had to assign a kid to take me around. And then that helped me to adjust to the new environment. Like going around to the church halls on Sunday afternoons, singing with different bands, getting to know the city better. And then back at Central Tech, it was a school anniversary then, so I decided to go and check it out at the auditorium, and they were doing a concert for the anniversary. So I went in and saw a young man with a guitar say, hey man, can you help me? I would love to sing a song for the anniversary show tonight. He says, I don't know if I can play what you want, but what do you want to sing? So I go, they call it Stormy Monday, and Tuesday just as bad. Lord, Lord of mercy, Lord of mercy upon me. That was the blues. So I sang it at the anniversary show, and then they showed it the Monday morning to the whole school in the auditorium. Man, I was a star. Everybody wants, hey, Jay, hey, Clive, we got a band. So then I started playing in the church halls around the city.
Okay, well, that needs a follow-up, because as we said off the top, Jay Douglas is not the name you were born with. When and why did you take on the name Jay Douglas?
Man, that's a good question, brother. Ooh. No, that's the question. I'm happy you asked this, because in the documentary, it showed where a gentleman by the name of Rick Sands came up to me while we were doing a gig right here in a club called The Generator. It was the hardest club to get booked in because they weren't using local bands, American bands. So we got this gig, and before the opening night in the afternoon, the guys in the band start fighting. And we have a show to do, but I'm a peacemaker, because where I came from, try to make peace, make things work. So I went up there and I worked my butt off, but the gentleman was at the back of the room, and when we took our first break, he said, I want to speak to you. I'm Rick Sands, come here. He says, what's wrong with the band? You're working hard, but they're not with it. Were you guys having problems? We're fighting. He says, I want you to come and see me next week in my office. He was one of the top agents in Toronto. He says, I want to help you. I don't want the rest of the band, I want you, because you're working hard. I said, but I can't leave the Cougars, man. The Cougars are the... He says, nobody knows you. And that's when I became Jay Douglas.
There we go. Do you know, one of the things, I didn't move to Toronto till 1978. from Hamilton. So all of these stories I've heard over the years about the Coq d'Or and the Colonial, I never went to any of those places. I saw them in your doc for the first time. Where did you get that wonderful, old, beautiful footage of Yonge Street from back in the day?
I mean, thankfully, it was well archived. The National Film Board, CBC, TVO, a lot of archives exist of it. But it's kind of, and Nicholas Jennings, he was a music consultant, and Clive Walker, they were huge help in sort of giving myself, as also a younger filmmaker, insights to like what that scene was like back in the day. And it was unbelievable. As Nick Jennings says in the film, it was probably one of the top 3 music cities in the world at the time. Just like wall to wall venues, and Jay talks about it, and just the richness of it. So we had to show that somehow. So yeah, luckily we were able to come across that. The one thing that is missing is the Caribbean-owned clubs that were also existing on Yonge Street at the time, usually on the other side of Yonge Street, and there's such a lack of record or archives of those. So we would grab a picture and you just see in the corner, like, oh, there's a sign of Club Jamaica. So that was always a struggle to find that, but luckily we've got Jay and some of his contemporaries who can really tell those stories.
Well, Graeme, that was one of the points, and that's one of the reasons I'm so glad you made this documentary, is that this was a kind of music at the time that was popular, but for whatever reason couldn't get to first base when it came to making records, getting bookings. You know, it was seen as sort of music over there and not music for everyone.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Good question. I mean, there's probably several theories, but I mean, as you said, the music that they were creating, the Cougars, Bob and Wisdom, Wayne McGee, it was arguably some of the best music coming out of Canada at that time. And it was kind of at the same time as reggae was just starting, but they were doing like soul and funk with their sort of Caribbean and Jamaican influence in it. And it was amazing. So, I mean, the talent and the quality is there. Why it didn't get record releases, why it didn't get on mainstream media and outlets, that's a good question. Maybe racism played a bit about it. Maybe racism played a bit of a role in it. But I think also, as plenty say, just the music industry in Canada has always been a challenge for local artists to make a living. But as Jay said, and a lot of the other people in the film and his other contemporaries, the industry at the time lacked vision. Mm-hmm. They didn't know how to market what they had, or they didn't have respect for it, which is just shocking when you hear the music, 50, 60 years later.
In fact, do you want to pick up on the story?
Yes.
It took a guy from Seattle to actually bring you guys to the fore.
Yeah, it was just plain ignorance. Mm-hmm. As Bob Marley said in one of his songs, in the abundance of water, the fool died of thirst. It was just ignorance, and ignorance is a disease to the mind. I must say this with respect, where there's no vision, the people will perish. And back to you in Hamilton, this same music, the Cougars that I worked with for years, we used to look forward to play the Diamond Gym in Hamilton. It was one of the main...
now that place I remember, Diamond Gym.
Yeah,
I remember that place.
We played there, and that's how we would go there and play and get to see the guys who played for the Tiger Cats, Angela Moscow, all these cats.
Right on.
They hang out at the time, and these were the music we were playing, but it was just plain ignorance, unfortunately.
Did you run into much racism as your musical career progressed?
Yeah, we run into music, even today. But we have to, I call that challenges. And thank God I came from a table back home from my grandparents, Louise Linford and all of them, who taught me how to we have to be equipped to cope, to deal with challenges. When we're not equipped to cope with these challenges, then it becomes a problem. It's as simple as that. Only a foolish dog barks after a flying bird. Yeah.
Do you want to pick up on the story about the guy from Seattle who actually kind of brought this music to the fore?
Yeah, so, I mean, it was a guy from Seattle, it's a guy from Vancouver, so Kevin Cipriano Howes. He connects with Matt Sullivan from Light in the Attic Records, along with DJ Supreme LaRock, who's in our film, and others of the record digging community. And Cipriano introduced some of these these albums that were like nearly impossible to find. Like the stuff that the Cougars recorded at the time, maybe 10 were in existence of those 7 inches.
And it's decades old.
Decades old.
Yeah.
So he had gotten his hands on some of them and connected with Matt Sullivan, and they immediately, Matt Sullivan, who's from Seattle, his label, Light in the Attic, is out of Seattle. They immediately were like, wow, this gold mine of music that was here, and it hasn't been re-released or not too many people know about it. So immediately they saw vision in the music.
But Graeme, you know what? Like, it kind of ticked me off when I saw that part of the documentary, that it took a guy from Seattle to tell Canadians and Torontonians, hey, you've had this music for 50 years. Why don't you kind of jump? Why don't you jump on it, guys?
It's crazy, and I think it's the industry in Canada again. Lack of taking challenges and lack of vision.
If I may say,
please.
When they came, when I found Wayne McGee, this young man. Because we grew up in Montreal.
Sheldon, which camera am I going to show that to? Camera 3. Okay. Yeah. So there's Wayne McGee.
Yeah.
And this is the guy
who created, on this album, Dirty Funk.
Dirty Funk, which became huge.
My drummer, who's still with me, Everton Pablo Paul, they called him for the session. He played the session, and he didn't know he was creating hip-hop.
Well, that's it. You guys were hip-hop before anybody knew what that was.
Because the American journalists asked us, when this album came, he said, did you guys know you were creating hip-hop? No, he just did the gig, get paid, go home, hug up his girlfriend, and continue. But we were creating hip-hop. Yeah. We did in those early years and didn't even realize it. So, but what was interesting, when they asked me to find Wayne McGee, after they tried for a year.
Yeah, he kind of disappeared off the radar, right?
I found him in an apartment in East York by himself. And he didn't even want to speak about the music anymore because he wasn't well. But I called the kids and said, I found him. They thought I was pulling their legs. So they said, what did we do, Jay? I said, you better come to Toronto right away. And they came, brought him a guitar. So I called all the artists in Toronto that I could. All of them. We had a nice reception. And what happened? What was so interesting about these young men? They came on a day it was the worst snowstorm in Canada. I was so embarrassed. But they got an SUV and a map. Nothing stopped them. But what was so interesting, they did not bring any politics into the approach of what they saw, what they wanted. They dusted off and walked out with it under their arm. And that's what happened.
Graeme, what's the story behind this album?
So yeah, they did the Wayne McGee release, which was one of their first releases as a new label, Light in the Attic, and it's a huge label now. They're a reissue label, and they find a lot of undiscovered or long lost music. So soon after this, they realized all the music that existed here was incredible. So they decided to create a whole compilation that features several of Jay and the Cougars songs and a lot of the other artists that came up from Jamaica at the time: Jackie Matu, Johnny Osborne, Wayne McGee, the Sheiks. So when this came out in 2006, it was huge, and it was a revelation for a lot of people, especially DJs like myself, who was trying to do Canadian content on my radio show at CHRY 105.5. Finally, there was like, oh, this wealth of Canadian music done by these Jamaican artists. So it was huge. And the tours were huge. They went across Canada, sold out shows, Harbourfront Centre, Pop Montreal, the Vancouver Folk Festival, and it was massive. But then again, this sold out. And so since 2006, it's been near impossible to find this. And the one you're holding on is one that Matt Sullivan and Cipriano decided to do a reissue of it in aligned with our film, the release of our film.
But it's only on vinyl.
It's only on vinyl now, yeah.
No CDs?
No CDs or digital.
Or digital.
Yeah, on other platforms. But it's huge that they decided to bring it out again, so it's now available for a new generation.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a great album.
I want to show, Sheldon, can you bring up this graphic here, photo 1? This is a mural in Toronto's Little Jamaica neighborhood, memorializing Caribbean artists. Jay Douglas, are you in that picture somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Which one's you?
the handsome kid there. Most handsome kid.
The most handsome one.
Yeah, with the microphone.
With the microphone in the green, in the middle?
Yes, sir.
That's you.
Yes.
Okay.
And that picture was taken in Val-d'Or, Quebec. Yeah,
And
in
what
the
is it-
early years of the Cougars.
What does it mean to you to be in that mural?
I'm honored because most of those artists, they contributed to the music scene here in Toronto, reggae music.
Stranger Cole was in
Stranger Cole, Leroy Brown, Jackie Mitu, Carol Brown,
there. Leroy Sibbles,
Leroy Sibbles, and
Johnny Osborne.
Johnny Osborne, Nana McLean. It goes on and on. But what's so interesting, if you look at that mural at the very top, which you can't see,
Come on, Sheldon, let's see it again.
I don't know if you can see that, but somewhere along there, CFRB's up there. Why? Why? They were the first mainstream radio station to start playing reggae music.
To start playing it?
Yes.
You are kidding me.
Would not kid you.
Because they're with the squarest station in town back
Thank
then.
you, with with Garden Sting, all those cats. But what happened? Jackie Mitu, God bless his soul, he came from Jamaica. He did some reggae tracks.
That's him.
Man, you're
Yeah,
really
there's Jackie.
You're really on top of your business.
You know, this ain't my first rodeo here, Jay. Come on.
Take care of business.
There we go.
The great Jackie Mitu.
There he is.
Who started out with Bob Marley and the Wailers because he was the part of the studio band that recorded Simmer Down. And he came here, and you know what he did? He found out that reggae was not accepted on the mainstream radio station. So he did an orchestration of reggae music. He put a bow tie on it, on the reggae, a big orchestration, strings and everything, and got a Canadian kid who's named from Hamilton, Vic Franklin, to sing reggae, and that's how CFRB accepted it, because it was very well polished and was acceptable, and they played it. And at the time, CFRB was right across the country. So that was a big start for reggae music being played to the Canadian people.
Graeme, how's the doc being received around the country, around the province?
Incredible. I mean, I'm not surprised because the music and the story and Jay is just such a beautiful, beautiful journey that we go on with him. But yeah, we've had screenings across the country. We were up in Whitehorse.
You can.
No kidding, you went up there for a screening.
Yeah, for a screening for a film festival. We have been in Vancouver. We had the Vancouver International Film Festival do a 4-night screening of it. Hot Docs Theater here, and we have a screening coming up this week.
You got one Wednesday night, March 19th, 7 p.m. at the TIFF Lightbox.
Yeah.
You did one at one of my favorite theaters in the province. You were at the Westdale Theater in Hamilton?
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, 100 years old or something like that?
Beautiful venue.
Beautiful venue as
And
well.
we're going back to my school.
Central Tech?
Yes.
Yeah.
For a screening there?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yeah, for the
Looking
students.
forward.
Yeah.
What do you think I mean, you've been doing this 6 decades, you've been in this business. A little more than 6 decades, actually. What do you think your biggest achievement is?
One of my biggest achievements is sharing the truth with the young generation. Because God bless our producer, Andrew Munger. When he called me 3 years ago about, hey, this is Andrew Munger. I'm a producer from Ultramagnetic Sound. I'd like to do a documentary in your life. Has anyone approached you? I said, no, sir. He said, well, I'd love to get together with you. Can we? I says, yes. I was very happy, but I had to ask this question right away. He says, sir, if we were to do this documentary or this project, can you please tell me what's in it for the young generation, the kids? No kidding, right off the bat. And, well, he gave me a little stutter answer, but I've been in the business long enough, picked up on his vibration. And 2 years ago, while we were in Jamaica with Graeme and Andrew and the crew shooting the film, where they took me back to my kindergarten and everything, and the kids, little kids in their uniform, they were all over us. In the middle of the shoot, one kid wanted money for ice cream, so I had to give him some money. But at the end of the evening, we were at supper, and Andrew looked at me and says, Jay, you remember when you asked me what's in it for the kids? I didn't give you a right answer, but after what I experienced today at the school, we share the same sentiments. And that was very gratifying. You know, it's for the young generation.
You know what, Jay? Kids know good music. It doesn't matter what genre, it doesn't matter what generation. When they hear good music, they are attracted to it, right? They are inspired by it.
And you're so true, because the vibration don't lie. And that made me a proud Canadian, a great country. Till this day, I am so blessed. Yes, I was born in Jamaica, but I'm blessed. I was born in paradise, living in paradise. Thank God for this great, great country, which has given us so much, and so much for the kids in the future, because they're the gem of the future.
Let me ask you one last kind of odd question.
Easy now.
When you think of yourself, do you think of yourself as Clive Pinnock or as Jay Douglas?
I think of myself as a messenger of peace and love. I'm a messenger of peace and love.
I love that answer.
The message is in the music, and it's peace and love. Let's move on. We got work to do.
Do you know what? We've had, over the years on this program, a lot of pretty cool people who've sat in those chairs. But no one as cool as you, man. You are the best. Put it there.
Thank you.
You are something else.
Watch it now. No, he's cool.
He's not bad.
I'm not as cool, yeah.
I agree.
Hardest working man in show business
He
in Canada.
really is.
Still performing.
He is the coolest cat I've ever seen. No question about it. Jay, thanks a lot for coming in. We want to remind everybody, Wednesday night, March 19th, TIFF Lightbox downtown. There's a screening of this movie at 7 p.m. It's well worth watching. I watched it yesterday. And play it loud, How Toronto Got Soul. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.